A1R Psychic Radio on Moonstruck TV. You're here with Amanda Hall Psychic all the way from the Gold Coast. And I hope you've been having an absolutely awesome week wherever you are around the world. And it's again with such sadness that we need to sort of reflect and I think spend a couple of seconds at least acknowledging the people that were in the London Bridge tragedy over the weekend. Our hearts do go out to them. And again, I'd like to suggest that we all have a group hug and sort of send our loving, healing prayers to these people and their families. It has affected everybody around the world in some way. So let's try and not focus on the negative. Let's try and rise above and do what the people of London are doing, and that's become positive and not allow this fear and this terror of terrorism to affect our everyday life. So it's interesting as we move through the astrological year as such, and each week, for those that have been joining us regularly here on my show, you'll know that each week we feature a Simply Tarot card of the week, but we also have a little look at what's happening in the universe and where the planets are and how they might be affecting us for the week. So this week I'm really excited to talk about the full moon in Sagittarius. With me being a Saggy, it's my favourite full moon of the year because it's almost like my birthday, even though it isn't my birthday, and it isn't a birthday for any Sagittarian. It's just a time of the year where I start to personally feel invigorated. And here in Australia, we're in winter now, so it's sort of always a nice time to start to feel a little bit cheery because I'm a summer person. As the wind blows cold and the skies get a little bit bleaker, and I don't particularly like going out in the cold. I'm a real summer beachy person. It's always like bringing a ray of sunshine into my life, I feel, when the full moon comes into Sagittarius. So the full moon in Sagittarius, to affect everybody, is the full moon is always about releasing and letting go of the things that no longer serve us. And a lot of people sort of say, oh, I believe to do that on a new moon, not necessarily a full moon. I personally like to do it on both because I think it's a time of release and renewal and opportunities for us to sort of move forward and change our thinking, shift our energy, and look forward to something new and positive in our lives. And if we think of the moon being full, it means it is full. It's like a bucket of water, it's full. We have to release some, we have to tip some out so that we can add some new things to our life. So this is exactly what we need to be doing. And I always look at the full moon in Sagittarius as almost like our second opportunity of the year to get our New Year's resolutions in. You know, we all did those in January and we had all these high hopes about what we were going to do for the year, and we get halfway through the year and we think, oh yeah, that fell off the wagon, oh that's not important anymore, but I've got these other exciting things I might like to achieve between now and the end of the year. So let's almost look at it as a second New Year's resolution where we can sort of go back and look at the list from the beginning of the year, cross off the things that we've maybe managed to achieve, and also reinvent or revamp the things that are left, or sort of look at what is now on our priority list. So it's a time of opportunity, of excitement, of really sort of setting that new list. And for those that watch regularly, you'll know that I'm a big person on candles. So what I do suggest is that you get your candle, you light your candle after you've revamped your resolution list, and put it underneath the candle before you light it. And do that for an hour every single day for the next 2 weeks, and start to really energise those resolutions, those opportunities, those new things that you want to bring into your life. So it doesn't have to be a candle of any particular colour. It's what you feel comfortable with. I tend to work with a candle from my own range that has been designed purposely for the full moon, and I would probably go so far as I would light a secondary candle because I would light the one for the energy that relates to it from, you know, a fire sign from a Sagittarian point of view, but that's entirely up to you. Do what feels right for you. So it is an exciting week. Let's motivate ourselves. Let's get the energy happening, because that's what this full moon is going to be about on the 9th, wherever you are around this amazing planet of ours. The 9th of June is when the full moon moves into Sagittarius, and we can all start to rejuvenate our second half of our year. So as we talk about each week, we always look at a Simply Tarot card of the week. Simply Tarot cards are my own tarot set that was launched 13 years ago by an Australian publisher called Hinkler Books. And we recreated the Rider-Waite deck, the most common deck in the world that most people cut their teeth on. These are purpose-shot photographs with a little basic introductory meaning on the bottom of them. Well, since those very early days, Simply Tarot's had 2 different facelifts, and now we've gone into our 3rd part of the series, and it's called Secrets of Tarot, that you can see behind me. Still with the same type of cards, but they've had a little facelift, and they've moved into an oldie-worldy sort of card versus the ones that we initially worked with, which were much more vibrant. So I still personally, I like to work with the Simply Tarot cards, the original babies of the series. They're my favourites. I suppose that's a sentimental thing. But this week I thought it was very, very interesting. The card that I drew for all of us to share this week is the Six of Wands. Now, in light of the fact that we've had so much turmoil in the world and so many disasters and so much negativity in the news, I thought this was a refreshing change as we lead into the full moon in Sagittarius. It's the Six of Wands. It's the card of letter or news coming, and more importantly, victory news. So it's a very positive, uplifting card. So if you've been waiting on that important email, an important phone call or text message, now is the time that when we talk about letter or news coming, we're talking about whatever our modern forms of communication are that are of the written variety is coming. And it could very well be a victory for many of you that you've had something that you've been waiting for is coming into your life now. So I really think we've got an exciting time ahead of us as we start to sort of project ourselves forward with the second half of the year, wherever you are around the world. And it's always good to see that we have opportunities coming towards us that we have worked hard for. I don't know about the rest of you, but I know when 2017 started for me, I thought I had my year mapped out and everything was sailing along nicely. And we got to about March and everything sort of took off in many different directions that I hadn't begun to even foresee myself. Not saying I wasn't excited about them, but what I'm saying is we can't always control our own destiny. It doesn't matter how much knowledge we have or how much wisdom we have or how many studies we do of our own life, whether it's with tarot cards or numerology or astrology or whatever you like to work with, whichever method you like to work with, they're always only a guideline. There is always a surprise element that's going to come in for each and every one of us. So we're going to go and take our first caller this morning, which is Kerry from Daytona Beach, Florida, USA. That sounds really lovely there, Kerry. Daytona Beach sounds where I'd like to be.
I'm in Daytona. Hello.
How can we help? How can we help you tonight, Kerry?
Hi. It's breaking up really bad. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here, sweetie. I'm having trouble hearing you. What's your question?
Okay. Well, I don't know that I have a specific question. I just recently lost my son in a motorcycle accident, and I'm just wondering if you can get anything from him.
Okay, Kerry, first must I say I'm terribly sorry for your loss. I'm sure everybody would join me here in giving you a big hug and saying to you that there could be nothing on earth that could compare to what you must be going through at the moment. And it's a terrible, hard thing, I'm sure. I mean, having never lost a child, I can't speak firsthand, but I've been through enough loss in my life to know that it's not an easy thing, but a child would be something I don't know that you'll ever come to terms with, because how can you? But having said that, what I'm being shown is your son's showing me he's got a smile on his face, so I'm going to take that as that right up until the very end, he seemed to be a very happy-go-lucky young man, somebody that sort of embraced life to the fullest. He doesn't seem to feel he missed anything. And I think that's an important thing, because when somebody's taken so young, we that are left behind tend to think that they've missed on all these so-called opportunities that lay ahead of them. Well, he's certainly not giving me that energy. He doesn't feel that he's missed anything, you know, like he achieved everything he wanted to achieve to this point in his life. He's also showing me, he's also saying to me it wasn't his fault. It was just an accident, Mum. So I don't know whether that is because you haven't been given enough information about what led up to the tragic events, but this is what he's sharing with me. It wasn't my fault. It was an accident. So he's very adamant about that.
He's saying it wasn't his fault?
Yes, that's what he's telling me. He's telling me it wasn't his fault. So I'm taking from that whatever you've been, whatever's been shared with you by the authorities, and I'm certainly not an expert on traffic accidents. I can only go by what your son is sharing with me, and he's clearly telling me to tell you it wasn't his fault. It was an accident. So if somebody says to me it was an accident, then to me it's something that took them by surprise, something that was out of their control. It was something they weren't anticipating or expecting. So, an accident, I suppose, can take on many different levels, if you want to put it that way, from something not functioning on the bike or something jumping in front of him or, do you know what I mean? It was something that was unexpected. He's telling me he's not responsible for it. So I have to go with that. He was very, very adamant about that. And to me, he's the sort of young man that he never told a lie. He wasn't the sort of person that would fabricate the truth. I'm not saying he didn't like to have a yarn with somebody or embellish a storyline, but with something that was serious, he was very adamant that he's always truthful. Is that how you would
that's been a big
describe
question.
it? Pardon?
Yes, it's been a very big question, whether it was his fault or not.
Yeah, but that's just basically all he's come through with, and he's still got this smile on his face, so I'm taking from that he's accepting what's happened. I mean, nobody'd be happy about it. You can't say you're happy that your life was cut short. But when they're showing me that they have a smile on their face, at least they've accepted what is reality, like that they've gone, their life is gone here as we know it here on earth. He still is showing me this energy of, I want life to go on, like, Mum, I want you to get on with life again. I want you to celebrate my life. I don't want you to be teary all the time and feeling sad. And he understands that that's part of the loss too, but he also wants you to find a way of turning those tears and sadness and anger and everything else that goes with grief and disappointment and everything into something that you can turn around and say, well, okay, I'm celebrating your life, son. I'm doing this for you. And that's what he wants you to do.
Okay, that makes complete sense.
Yeah, and did he have a young girlfriend?
Anything
did he have a girlfriend?
Because he kept showing me people that were in accident?
Did he have a girlfriend that you were aware of?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Did he have a girlfriend that you were aware of?
No. I don't know where it was, but there was other people involved, and I've been very conflicted on how to handle the whole situation and how to feel towards the other people involved in the accident. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I mean, look, you're only human, and that's the first thing I want to say. You are human, you are a mum, and you've had the greatest loss of all time. So, you are allowed to be angry, sad, wanting to go and punch somebody in the nose. I mean, they're all very real emotions, and I'm not saying to you don't honour those. I mean, obviously don't go and punch someone in the nose, but, because that's assault. But you know what I mean? I think you've got to honour all these gamut of emotions and then try and find out of all that what your son has asked of you, to try and turn that into something positive, into something that you will then honour his life for the young man that he was, vibrant, alive, happy. He was always positive. He didn't find a bad word about anybody. Do you know what I mean? He always tried to find the people, and that's what he wants you to honour. That's how he wants you to go forward. But he was very clear in stating to me that he wants you to honour all the what we consider here on earth negative sides of your emotions, your anger, your frustration. Why was it him? Why wasn't it someone else? And these are all very earthly emotions, and he's saying to your mum, honour that. You know, it's okay. I'm not cranky with you for honouring that. You've got to honour that, but then when you get past that initial point of that, then please put this into here. You know, something that represents me, that's something that I live on in a positive way. You know, I live on in and there may be some sort of cause or some sort of thing that you might want to set up in 6 to 12 months' time that will be in your son's honour, because that's what he keeps showing me, is like a cause.
Yes, and we spoke about that even before he passed away, and that is exactly what he wants of me, is to do something in his name and in his honour. And I mean, this was something, like I said, we spoke of this before he passed away. He wanted to do something that, like, helps the community in a small way, but in a different way, you know. And I know that he wants me to go forward with those, the positive side of it, you know.
And I think how he wants you to go forward with this is maybe with the younger members of the community, you know, bringing some sort of awareness to them that, you know, yes, it's great to be young and go out and have a good time and be a bit silly, but be mindful of the fact that accidents can happen. You know, things can change on a split second. You know what I mean? Like, you can use his story of tragedy in a positive way.
Yes. Absolutely. Do you feel any children from him?
Pardon?
Any children from him? Any offspring that he may have left behind?
Not to my knowledge. He keeps showing me this young blonde girl, and I don't know who she is. I assumed she was his girlfriend or his love interest, but she's got very, very, very blonde hair, almost sort of Swedish-looking blonde. You know, that platinum straight blonde hair about shoulder length. So if there's some girl that you haven't been able to place where she fitted into the equation and she hasn't said very much, she's the one you need to talk to, because I feel they were just starting to date or were becoming very close. She's the one that he seems most concerned with out of everybody that was in his social circle. But he didn't give me a name. He just showed me what she looked like. But I don't think you've got any grandchildren floating around that you didn't know about, unfortunately.
Okay. I didn't think so, but I wanted to make sure. I didn't need to go check any corners or anything, you know.
Don't show me that if there was grandchildren somewhere in the background. But all I can say to you, Kerry, is we all here at A1R Psychic Radio feel your pain, and we're with you, you know, we're with you, we're in our prayers, and you just keep going forward and allow yourself to have some bad days, sweetie, because there's always going to be bad days even in 30 years' time. Grief doesn't stop because the calendar tells us it should.
Does he do anything to show me that he's around?
Oh, he will soon. He'll start doing things that you could only know that come from him, like moving your photos around or moving things around because he knows it annoys you. You like things in a certain spot.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, well, that's going to be the sign of him. So if you get up and something's moved, then you'll know he's done it, to just sort of show you he's there. But he's with you every single day. He's always there with you.
Mm-hmm.
Is he with his grandma?
Yeah, he's with his grandma. Yeah, he's with his grandma, and he's with another older lady who I'm assuming was a great-grandmother on your husband's side.
That's my sister and my mother.
Right. Okay. All right,
Does he leave anything for us?
No, they've pulled their energy back now, so I feel that they just want you to sort of be in the energy of the message from your son.
Is he here with us right now?
He's always with you, sweetheart. He never leaves your side.
Lisa?
And he says that the accident was not his fault.
That's right. He clearly told me that it was not his fault. It was an accident.
Mm-hmm. All right. Is there any other, like, just general things about where my life is going and the direction that it's in, and when things are going to get maybe a little easier financially?
This is the major thing that you've got to do. I think you've got to honour this time, that this time is very important to your future, to honour this, to go through all the emotions and just be. Don't sort of try and bring in new projects or new opportunities or anything at this time. Honour this time with your son and your loss. Then I think from about September, I think things will start to take off in different directions, and I feel then there will be a new job that you'll be looking towards, making a change with your day job after September. But that's the only message they're giving me at the moment. So I want to wish you well and thank you for phoning. We love you all. Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, we're going to go to Jenny in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania now. Hello, Jenny, are you there?
Hi.
Hi, Jenny, how can I help you?
Hi. How are you?
Very well, sweetie. Do you have a question for us?
You're breaking up. Oh, my God. I have a friend. He was committed suicide.
Oh, dear. I'm so sorry to hear that, Jenny. So the energy that he's sort of giving me is that he might have taken his own life. I'm not questioning that, but to me he's telling me it wasn't meant to be that way. It wasn't what he was aiming for. He wasn't aiming to end his own life. It was sort of, he was trying to get someone's attention. He was trying to get a message across that things weren't good in his life. He had no intentions of taking his own life. And that's the thing that you've struggled with, isn't it? Because you didn't believe that it was something that he intentionally set out to do.
He was depressed, and I was wondering because I don't understand.
Yeah, I understand that, but what he's saying to me was the end result of what the actions that he took, he was not expecting it to lead to his passing. His intention was not to take his own life. That wasn't his intention. It's just tragic that it's the way that it ended up. That wasn't what he planned. And he wants to be very clear on that. I'm not saying that he's not saying to me that he wasn't in a dark place, that he wasn't in a place where his emotions were all over the place and he didn't feel that he had a lot to look forward to in life. I think he'd had a very difficult life. He keeps saying to me he had a tragic life. I think that might be stretching the friendship a little bit. I don't know that his life was necessarily that tragic growing up as he's describing it, but that's his words, not mine. I would have said he'd had a very difficult life. I feel that there was lots of things that had happened in his life as a little boy growing up that should never have happened or are not what we consider normal. And where some people would take that in their stride and it would make them stronger, what it did for him made him more confused. He didn't seem to understand what part he might have been responsible for, or why do these things happen? Why did these things happen? They shouldn't have happened to me. So I think it was a combination of things that led to ultimately him taking his own life. And he still keeps telling me he did not intend that. That was not what he intended. And he wants you to be very clear on that. You know, he's almost sort of, it's like, you know, you've got to go to bat for me on this, that when people say that, you've got to turn around and say, I don't believe that was right. I don't believe that was his intention, because it wasn't his intention. His intention, yeah, we could say it was attention seeking, but I wouldn't like to put that in the same sentence. I believe it was a cry for help. I feel that he didn't know what other way to communicate or express himself in a way that people would take him seriously, that things were serious. He was in a spot. He was in a place that he didn't know what to do. He didn't know how to handle it. And that to me is a cry for help.
Yeah.
He wasn't doing this because he thought he had nothing left to look forward to in his life. It wasn't that sort of depression. He felt overwhelmed. He didn't know what was the next step. You know, if we can break this down into very simple terms, most of us have different things in our lives that we hope to achieve, and we have a plan of attack. We have steps that we're going to take to help us achieve those goals. And, you know, sometimes they're not the right step, but we've got a plan, haven't we? We've got, okay, we'll do this, and then we reassess and go on to the next thing. He didn't have that beginning point. Everything that was in his life just seemed so overwhelming that he didn't know where to go first. He didn't know what step to take to maybe try and bring some peace into his life. And you were one of the only people that he felt very connected to, that he felt he could be himself with, that you knew more about his inner secrets than anybody else on the planet. And that's something that he's very clear in sharing with me, that, you know me, you know what I was like, you know I never talked about killing myself. And he's very adamant about that. He never talked about that. But he did talk to you about he didn't know where his life was going. He sort of felt like he was spinning out of control all the time. You know, it's sort of like, yes, he had some negative thoughts, but they weren't negative thoughts as in ending his life. They were more thoughts coming from fear, out of, you know, what if I can't control things? What if I'm not good enough? What if I don't do this right? You know, it was more a self-esteem issue than it was. I'm not saying he wasn't depressed, and I'm not a medical practitioner. I can only go by the energy that he's giving me. But what I would have liked to have seen was everybody that was close to him besides you take him a little bit more seriously before this happened, and gone and got him some help. You know, I think what he needed was someone to talk to, someone that could help him put the pieces into place. You know, it was like a jigsaw puzzle. The pieces needed to be to put into place. He didn't need medication as such. He needed someone to take him seriously. He needed someone to say it's okay. You know, like, things are changing in your life. So, you know, I mean, you know that he didn't do this on purpose. He loves you, and he wants to give you a cuddle and give you everything that you did. So I hope that's helped you, Jenny. We're now at the end of the show, sweetie, but he loves you, and he's giving you a big cuddle.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure, Jenny. So have a great week. So I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today on A1R Psychic Radio on Moonstruck TV, and we shall see you all again next week. So don't forget, light your candle, set your New Year's resolutions for the second half of the year with the moon in Sagittarius on the 9th. So we're going to have a very, very interesting show next week. We will actually talk about Mercury next week. We never got a chance to talk about that this week. Our first part of our Mercury series and our 4-part series on how the planet of communication affects us in our day-to-day lives. So join me next week, same time, same station on A1R Psychic Radio and Moonstruck TV. Bye-bye for now.